So before my wife kicks off the parenting of this weekend, we have 2 children. We have a son, 26 years old, 27 years old, and a daughter that's 22. We're grandparents already. Our daughter conceived 3 months after getting married. After they wanted to wait 6 years. It was one of God's big miracles. So we love our little grandchild. He is such a little blessing, very cute. Yes, and we've been in ministry since 1992, in my case, 1992. Basically, most of that time, full-time. First missionaries, and then at various church groups. The first church groups we pastored was Maranatha Church in Kempton. And then after Kempton, actually before that, we were missionaries for 8 years in North Africa, Middle East. Then pastored for 6 years with Maranatha. Then we planted a church in the West Coast. And then we pastored with Shofar for 6 years. And then we've been doing these family courses and pastoring, eldering with Josh Chen for 8 years. So yeah, been quite busy. And it's been such a privilege to serve God. I get paid to do my hobby. Isn't that a blessing? So I'm very, very grateful. We both are. Over to you.
So I don't know if you made the math, but actually we have 4 kids, 2 biological and 2 in-laws. So what a privilege. Thank you so much. I feel so humbled because it's so difficult to, within a weekend, to give you parenting. I mean, how on earth do you do that? I always say, I wish we can have a team that can travel with us and we can ask each one's advice on parenting because that makes it rich. So thank you for having us here. Tomorrow, a week ago, we had a ladies' meeting in our house and we had a little bit of conversations on mentoring, and one of the things we asked the younger ladies, the younger elders' wives, were this: who do you get your advice from? And we went around the table, parenting advice, and we gathered the information is in there's good Instagram posts, there's good Pinterest clips, and they get the information from there, and everyone went, that's amazing. And then I said, I think it is dreadful. What do you know about the woman you learn from or the father you learn from on Instagram and Pinterest? We don't know the intimate details of their lives. We need, Titus 2 says, the older woman should teach the younger. The older men should be involved with the younger. And I think that is why we still have moments like this, because there are people that walk the road which you still have to go. And I really would like to ask you to look around in the room tonight and go, I like that couple. Maybe we should go eat with them once a month or have coffee with them once a month and glean from them. We like what we see, what they represent as a family. I'm not saying don't look at Instagram. I'm just saying I can say incredible things, godly things on Instagram, but my life is not in order. Okay. So I'm going to speak tonight on how to build a healthy family structure. So I studied in the arts department, and if you know anything of art, we know that there are 3 primary colors. Who knows what the 3 primary colors are? Red, blue, and yellow. That's it. Do you know that we cannot create red? We can collect all the money in the world, but you and I in any lab, we cannot create red. All other colors come from red, yellow, and blue. And I think these days, with our modernized world, we try to create what God created. We try to recreate, to say, we've done that. And parenting is very much like that. There are certain principles in place, and we don't have to go and recreate it. It's like a primary color. Thanks, love. It's like having a primary color, leave it. Go glean from it, mix your colors, and build on it. And that is what I'm going to discuss tonight. So a lot of things you're going to go, I think I know this, but going back to the basics is always good, because then we know where to build from. When families sit in front of me and they go, the kids are screaming and my husband this and I this, then I go back to this plan. I'm like, let's just go back to the primary colors. Let's see, because when we speak to each other, we think we have everything in place. Like even with Christianity, we go, yeah, I know that. But do you do that? Do you implement it? Do you live it? And that's why we do what we're doing tonight. Okay, so where does a family start? Mac and I, we got married and we were a family. I can actually use the Farsons. We met the Farsons, they were single, and then they were husband and wife, and they were a family. And then they multiplied. They became one and multiplied. It's an incredible concept, eh? They became one and then they multiplied and they started having children. And because they are one, but they multiplied, they're now a family. And we have to speak on how to create strong family structures, how to keep it in place. The first question I would like to ask you is, what is your big dream for your family? So if you are a solo parent here tonight, plug in with somebody, sit with them. When couples are here, please discuss it. I would like to ask you to start with 10 points. What is your dream for your family? What would you love to see happening in your family? 10 things. It needs to be 10. Are you doing well? Who has 10? Wonderful. Step number 2. Choose your top 3. It means you scratch the others out. So when you choose top 3, you need to choose where you go, we cannot afford to go without these. That's how you choose. Okay, so you've got a top 3. Top 3? I've got one. Oh, wonderful. Okay, so here the exercise served you the following. You've just determined the top values you would like to have for your family. Can anybody tell me what yours are? Speak freely. Following God? Okay, what else? Okay, what else? Wat het julle gesê? Wonderful, one more, last one. Okay, so how do you determine a value? It is such a high priority in your life. If somebody says to you, you can't do it, you go, no, I can't. I can't. Like, you're gonna take life away from me if I just can't. I can't compromise my values. So a value is something that's high priority in your life that you're willing to spend money, time, and effort on. And if you say community is important, how much money, time, and effort are you willing to spend on it? If you say, my kids to be founded in the Word of God, how much time, effort, and money? So, I'm not trying to be facetious, but we say the right things. But how much effort, time, and money are you willing to invest in that to make sure it happens? Or is it the idea that you like, but the application is a bit hard? And that leads me to, that is why we need each other. So I normally ask families, have you got a village? Who believes it takes a village to raise a child? Wonderful. And then I go, who's your village? Standard answer, the people at the church. Give me 5 families' names. And they went, we think it's the church, but we don't implement it, so we don't have concrete names. You know what it means to build community? This is what it means. It means we don't believe in responsive parenting. We don't believe in positive parenting. We believe in the Word of God, building with our community. This is what it means. If my child is disobedient at church, I need to trust them to go to my child and reprimand my child in love, because I know they've got my children's best interest at heart. They will not harm my child. They will not say ugly things to my child. They would represent me and they would represent Christ. That is what it means. A child has to be raised by a village. You know what we normally do as parents? You know, but I'm going to say it. You go to your child. Wat het oom Dani gesê? Wat het julle gedoen? Hoekom het hy dit gesê? Like, we see it in teaching today. Like, when we grew up, the teacher was right. Today, the teacher is wrong. My child is right. That is what positive parenting means. We fall into a place of culture. Romans 12, verse 2 warns us as parents. It says, do not conform to the ways of the culture, but renew the way that you think. Not renew the way that we feel as parents. We need to renew the way that we think. So here is, how do you build a strong family? You need to have a village. You need to allow input in your life and in your kids' life from those people. So I'm running a little bit ahead of myself, but we phoned people. We phoned our village, and I would say to them, Mika had such a hard day at school today. Will you just check in with her? And then I would rely on our village, on our friends, to make contact with her and say, your mom and I just had a quick conversation. She said you had a hard day at school. Do you want to chat about it? If you start that at young, do you know what happens when they're teenagers? They've got safe spaces, godly voices. They've got community. I've always said to my children, God forbid, I'm so happy they're married. They've followed the godly route. Some of them, we will share our stories as we unfold the weekend, is I always said, if my child has to come to me and she goes, Mom, I'm pregnant, I'm going to freak out, even if I decided I'm not going to. Teenage pregnancy. But if she goes to them, they know, and she knows I'm going to freak out. But she's got a buffer. She's got a community with her. And then they're going to come see me. And then they're going to bring... Does it make sense to you? You need to create the platform for it. You need to go, Jesus, I need to bury my own issues. My own childhood hurts, and I need to open my heart for other people's input. Okay? So one of the values is we need to build community and not according to culture. Have conversations. I'm going to speak on discipline tomorrow. Malachi 4 verse 6 is another value of ours. It says, the hearts of the fathers will turn to the children. And I don't know whose kids are past the age of 13, but more or less that age, they will know, the older ones, they'll know. Like I often would say to Mac, in the privacy of our room, someone in this house is going to die and it's not me. That was the teenage phase. And I love teenagers, I still do. But at one point you're like it's his fault or it's her fault. And then we were reminded ourselves of Malachi 4 verse 6. It says the father's hearts will turn to the children. It doesn't say the children's hearts will turn to the father. First, the parents' hearts turn. And we draw them into relationship. And when a dad's heart or a mom's heart turns, it creates safety. It creates safety. And so that was one of our. Another value of ours was Deuteronomy 6, verse 5 to 9. And you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your strength. Okay, so I would like to say, as I read the scripture, it firstly speaks to parents. And you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your strength. And you must commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these commands that I am giving to you today. Repeat them again and again to your children. You know that thing that we say to our kids, how many times do you want me to talk to you? Repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you are at home and when you are on the road, when you are going to bed and when you are getting up. When you pick your kids up from school, you chat about these things. When we drive, to stop listening to podcasts when your kids are in the car. Talk to them. Stop listening to voice notes in your car. Speak to them when you're on the road. Tie them to your hands and wear them on your foreheads as reminders. Put them on your cell phone as reminders. Write them on the doorpost of your house and of your gates. That we had as a value, and we had to remind each other all the time. So you could rewrite that in a very practical way in your home. When is it that we speak about these things? What do we put on our doorpost? She just does what kids do. She's crying. She wants mommy. Okay, so just to help you, another few values we had is consistency. Why consistency? It's the cement of parenting. If you can put in the most incredible rules, if you're not consistent, your kids will not be obedient to it. Want jy soos die wind waai. The one day we can eat in the car, the next day we can't. The one day we're allowed to shout in the house, the next day we can't. Consistency is the cement of parenting. Mac was good with that. He made sure it happens in our house. Open and honest communication and not manipulation. We always said, we had a rule in our house. It was a value. If you slam the door, you will not get it today. If that is your attitude, what is manipulation? Forcing me to do what you want me to do. If there's manipulation involved, our rule was, we can chat about this tomorrow again. Let's try tomorrow again. But today, we will not give attention to this. It was a value in our household. You know what is the most valuable thing of not being manipulated as a parent? Recognizing where you manipulate. If you have kids who manipulate, you as a parent most probably manipulate. It's an ouch, but it is the truth. Flexibility. We wanted to teach our kids a yes can become no if something more important comes up. That needs to be a backbone in our households. Our kids are used to, Mom, but you said. Yes, but we have flexibility. You said we're going to eat pizza at Spur. Spur is there forever. It's there tomorrow night. It's the day after, next week, next month, next year, Spur is going to be there. Does Spur still exist? Okay. All of a sudden, I'm like, maybe it doesn't. But Abby is coming to visit us. And we're not going to say to Abby, sorry, Abby, we're off to having pizzas. Can you come back another time? No, she's more important than pizza to us. So we said we're going to go, but we're just going to go another night. So we had a value of flexibility. I lost my notes. I must just find it again. Leading by example. Whew, big one. Big one. We want to give our kids chores. We expect them to do things we're not doing. Pick up your clothes. Your room looks like a pigsty. Mom, yours too. Stop shouting at me. No one shouts in this house. We sound like this. Can I tell you, how do you teach your kids obedience? Do you know how? Who's got the golden nugget of teaching obedience? Our kids learn what obedience looks like from us. That's it. And we, as parents, we're very serious about parenting according to obedience, because we use scriptures like the Word of God says, honor your mother and your father, you need to listen to me. Do you stick to the speed limit? Do you pay your tithe? Are you obedient to the Word of God 100%? And I can carry on and on and on. How do you speak about your leaders in front of your kids? How do you speak about teachers and whoever, your parents in front of your kids? They're learning, listening. What does obedience look like from mom and dad? That's an ouchie, isn't it? Obedience is a big thing, and it carries integrity if we are obedient. Boundaries. I'm going to speak about on boundaries just now. When we know ourselves, we know which enemy will knock on the back door. I don't want to knock too loud. Of our lives. Like I just said, Mac was good in being consistent in our family. He was our compass. He was our radar. Like, we need to stay consistent. I am a drama queen. I am like the wind blows. I will get up in the morning and go like, oh, do I have to work today? Can't we just have fun? If I had to homeschool, my poor kids would have still been in school. That's why we didn't homeschool. That's why Jesus never called me to homeschooling. And we have to follow what the leader said. The other thing Mac was brilliant at is training our kids and follow up. I was the mom, and I'm just sharing these things to show you we're a team. We're doing this together. We need each other. I was the mom that would go pick up your blocks. And then I'd go, what is going on here? I told you to pick up your blocks. Once you give an instruction, you need to follow up. You know who's your best friend in life? A timer. Please go buy yourselves a timer. If you say, you need to pick up the blocks in the next 10 minutes, put the timer. Why? You're training yourself to be consistent. You're training yourself that your yes is yes and your no is no. That is how your kids learn what obedience looks like. But mommy, I said 10 minutes. The alarm went off, 10 minutes. You can't give an instruction and then it's discipline. That's how we do it, hey. It's an instruction and then it's follow up. And then the follow up is a mess and they didn't do what you told them to do. Then it is training and education. Then you throw out the blocks. This is how we pack it back. You throw out the box. This is how we pack it back. Okay, so here is the thing of parenting. We raise our kids, but we grow up in the process. Anybody that's a parent know that is the truth. Allow yourself to grow up in the process. Use your community. When our kids were small, we had 5 families. And sometimes I even say to my kids, I don't know what to do now. Dad is off somewhere. I'm just going to phone a friend. I'd phone my friend and I would say, please don't be on my side. Be on the side of truth here. This and this and this happened in my household. And then she would say one thing. And if she said what I liked, it's easy to go, oh, Auntie Kathy said, da, da, da. No, phone the next friend. Involve your community. Parenting is your growth spurt in life, okay? How do you train your kid to obedience? You becoming obedient, your leaders. Honor your parents. The way you speak, the way you drive, the way you pay your tax. So the way I can explain this to you is like this. You can pretend as if you're obedient. But what will manifest in your household will be the true motive of your heart. And the best example I can use is this. If you and your wife watch pornography, nobody except you and Jesus will know it. You can do it in secret. But you will not be able to contain the spirit of lust that will break out in your household. You can't. You break, when you are obedient or when you are disobedient, you break things open for your family. And that is going to manifest in your household. Okay? Who feels convicted? You're going to become more obedient. Okay. Then, this is how we build this little blocky here. The first thing is you build community. We've touched on that already. You need to go sit with people and go like, this scares the living dilly out of me, but please start building with me. I don't know what it looks like, but can you start building with me? Can you just build with my husband and I? And here is a tip. You get somebody 10 years older than you. You get 20 years older than you. You get a couple 30 years older than you. And then you get a couple 20 years younger than you and 10 years younger than you. Why? Discipleship always happens on 3 levels. We speak of mentors these days, but it's discipleship. I don't see the word mentor in the Word of God. I see discipleship. It happens on 3 levels. If I go to Fred and I say, Fred, can I come to you once a week? Because I want to learn things from you. By week 6, she's going to go, oh, that woman is here again. She just saps the life out of me. It's true. We are all like that. But if she goes, yes, but you need to, are you Ruth? How's it, Ruth? But you need to then start walking a road with somebody else. And then I go, da-da-da-da, and then, Ruth, can we have a coffee? And I just share with her what Fred is sharing with me. This is level 2. This is level 3. Does it make sense? All of a sudden, this relationship and the dynamics of this relationship is going to change. Because I'm going to go to her because she's asked me a question that I don't know. And I'm gleaning wisdom from her. And she's going to pass it on to Abby. And she's going to go, Nordine and I see each other once a week. And I learn so much. And that is how it works. That is how you build community. It is not to sap out the marrow of life from your community. It's to learn from each other. Titus 2 is very clear, the questions you can ask. How did you raise your kids? How did you honor your husband in marriage? Just keep asking the same questions. You're going to get different answers. And eventually, you're going to ask questions like, I know everybody says tooth is the terrible tooth. I'm not coping. Somebody's going to die. It's not me. You know, those conversations, toddlers. How do I do this? How do I keep it together? How can I be obedient and consistent in doing this? That is how you build community. Okay. Creating mentors in your own life. Being an example for your kids to have mentors later on in life. Another thing that builds family culture, celebrations. So the ones that we know is birthday, Christmas, New Year, Easter. You can carry on. But when we say we have moments of celebrations to build a healthy family structure, it's a value. It's not by chance. One example is eating at the table 1 meal a day. No phones. Can we put our phones off? No distractions. No one answers a phone. Nothing. Cell phone is not face down on the table. No, we don't share space with phones. Television off. That is creating moments of celebration. Birthdays. I love the story. A friend of mine, they were 5 daughters, and one year she grew up in the same village I grew up in, and one year I looked through her photo album, and she said, "Oh, there's my 5th birthday, and there's my 10th birthday." I'm like, "There's no notes here. How do you know?" She says, I count the roses. So every year, if she turned 5, her dad would give her 5 roses. Year 6, she would get 6 roses. And that carries on until the age of 21. So she just counts the roses, and then she knew that was that birthday. That is a celebration. Why do we have celebration? To create legacy and memories. And do you guys know who the biggest memory maker, the chief memory maker is of your family? Can the dads, all the dads in the house, stand up? Look around in the room. These are the chief memory makers. Why? Because they're the leaders of the home. Mom live it out, and mom creates the space. But dads, don't leave that your kids say, "Mom was fun." Why is dad the chief memory maker? Wonderful fact, how Jesus created us. Dads connect with their kids. Oxytocin gets released when dads have fun with their kids. When moms have fun with their kids, oxytocin does not get released. How weird is that? Our role is to nurture and comfort. That is where oxytocin. A child got hurt, where do they go to? Mom! When grandparents come and visit, I see all these clips, and then they're so excited. Grandpa and grandma's there, and grandma's like, and he says, no, I want pops. Because there's fun coming. Did you want to say something, Mac? Yeah, Caleb Daniel, I'm so irritated by this little chap. Our daughter is writing a final university exam, so I look after him in the mornings. I feed him, put him to sleep. I'm sweating, I'm suffering here. And then he sees Mac, he's like, I'm like, hello, chappie, buddy. I'm the one looking after you, because Mac just plays with him all the time. Guys, you are the chief memory makers. It's for legacy. When you're not there anymore, your kids need to go. My dad used to. My dad always called a family meeting, and we had chappies and whatever. Okay, so one of the celebrations we said when our kids were young is, if our kids struggled, let's say, with math at school, and they nailed it after a while, practicing, the next year, we would write down that date, and the next year we will have a math celebration. This day, a year ago, you conquered the obstacle of math. It's just a family thing. Or this day, a year ago, you got baptized. Or this day, a year ago. So our son is 27 now. He wandered away from the Lord for 7 years. And last year, the 7th of June, he recommitted his life radically to the Lord. And this year, the 7th of May, we had a huge party. We had a celebration. We had a salvation celebration, an evening of worship, and just giving thanks to Jesus. And we had saved and unsaved in our house, some of his still unsaved friends, create celebrations. You know why we create celebrations? It's an opportunity to invite people in. So when our kids were at school on a Friday night, we didn't have movie night, we had people around the table. We had bring and share dinners, and we would go, Fred and Dani, we would organize this beforehand. Don't you guys just spontaneously start sharing your story, how you met as a couple, and when did you get married, or how did you meet the Lord, or just stories around the table. And the kids were involved in it. Our kids loved it. They, like our friends' kids, normally wanted to go play, and they're like, no, there's a story coming, I'm not going anywhere. Or game nights. I hate a board game. The word says it all, bored. I cannot stand. Who thought of board games? We would invite friends over and play board games. Why? It creates moments of memory and celebration in our kids' lives. It builds bridges to relationships. Okay. Woo! Boundaries, 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 boundaries. If you want healthy family culture, boundaries. Respect each other's space, each other's time, each other's belongings. I'm going to explain to you one example. I want to explain what boundaries are, because parents try to implement it in a healthy family culture like this. No one in this family swears ever again. That's it. No swear words anymore. And then you go, I've set a boundary. Now everybody needs to be obedient. Then your child, because that's a word you used to use, say, oh, S-H-I-T. And then you go like, discipline for you, I have set a boundary. That is not how you set boundaries. Setting a boundary works like this. Let's say you're getting into a lift, and your kid always, he just runs and he presses all the buttons. And you say, I'm drawing a line in the sand. That's a boundary. You will not run to the lift and press all the buttons. You know how you enforce that boundary? You keep your child back. You get into the lift first and you stand in front of the buttons and you say, you're not going to press it. I am going to train you and teach you what a boundary is. It's not saying and expecting. It's training and educating them. I'm going to keep you away until you understand. I'm saying, no, this is a boundary. So, and the easy way to teach your kids this is, my door is open, and we teach our kids normally, knock on a door before you walk in. You know how I know boundaries is not a high value in families anymore? We live in Stellenbosch and we work with young people. I don't think there's one young person that knocked on our front door this year. They park in front, they walk in. And we're like, is this are we just that informal? And then we started locking the door so that we can teach them. You need to knock. We will open, and then we will invite you in. You can't just barge into our house. That is how and that's just one of many examples. Boundaries is so important. Why is it important? It builds resilience in our kids. So when we teach them to ride a bicycle, we put on the side wheels, remember? The boundaries. Like you can't fall. But then you have to exercise and practice how to do this by yourself. If you don't do it the correct way, you're going to fall and hurt yourself. Does it make sense? So with the door thing, we would leave our door open and our kids will come in and I'll go, oh, I'm so sorry. Can you go out and just knock on it? And then they're like, the door was open. Yeah. But have you seen there's a little line? on the floor before you cross my room. That means it's a silly thing, but it just makes your kids aware of concrete boundaries so that later on they understand abstract boundaries. So our son was, I think he was grade 10 or 11, and the one day, right, and I said, I'm sorry, we're going. He says, excuse me, there's a line in front of my door. Can you just go? And he said it very respectfully. I'm like, you got this. You got this. I was a bit irritated, but you got this. Boundaries creates routine and patterns in their lives. We see it with our grandson now. He has to be put down 11:30 for his 2-hour afternoon nap. But when he's with me, he's like, he's an extrovert. He's very charming. He's 11 months old. So he looks at me and he smiles like there's, what do we do? Oh, you're so cute. And pick him up and no. Then I go, no, you need to sleep now. And then he turns his head and he sleeps. That is, there's a boundary for me too, but I'm creating a pattern and a routine for him. What is a routine? It's the same thing happening at the same time at a different place every now and then. The reason I use that as a routine is very important in healthy family structure. Routine is we go to church on a Sunday morning, we go to COM on a Wednesday evening, we have friends over on a Friday evening. It announces what's coming. So it creates patterns, right? So the reason I said it is the same thing at the same time, but it can be in different spaces. Mac and I travel quite a bit, but we will go to bed every night, doesn't matter where we are in the world, at the same time. So we will sleep at the same time in a different space, bed, or whatever. The one thing our culture today forces us into is you need to withdraw yourself from community, from church, from friendships, from certain family responsibilities and connections. Because your baby is now asleep or your child's now asleep, you can't go anywhere. It's very convenient. But that is not teaching them boundaries and routine with understandable patterns. If you are going to withdraw yourself from church and community and say, sorry, my child sleeps now, so I can't, for the next year, I'm not going to be at community. Then you fall pregnant, you're like, okay, for the next 2 years, I can't be at community, you know. But if you teach your child, I still have it, a guggelgeel, yellow quilt. And I put that on the floor with the pillows. And I'm like, you do not cross these lines. You can read a book. You can lie. Kids please do not let kids watch screen time before the age of 2. It's extremely damaging to eyesight and brain development. Okay? Really, it is really bad. You can read a book, you can do whatever, but you're going to lie on there. The reason we give up is the following. We need to go, no, Mommy said, on here. And they want to throw a little tantrum and it's a wrestle. And like, you cannot give in. You can sit with them, you can put your hand on them. But that is teaching them that boundaries create routine. So now we go to COM every Wednesday night with that blankie, with that pillow, and this is what's happening. So a routine is the thing that happens, the same thing, the same time at different spaces. Does that help? Do not withdraw yourself from community. And roles and responsibilities. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but the role of a mom is to help her kid to understand how to understand his inside world. I'll explain that now. The role of a dad is to teach a child how to understand the outside world. So let me explain this to you. When a child gets hurt, they go to mommy. Mommy comforts. Mommy is kind. Mommy is gentle. Mommy is soft. Mommy gives a plaster. What is it that a daddy teaches his child? Daddies, please teach your children this so that mom can learn it too. Never rescue the struggle. Moms always want to rescue the struggle. Dads go, nee, dat is 'n bietjie sukkel. And mom's like, no man, like shame man, he's moaning. It's like, don't allow your wife to rescue the struggle. Wifeys, do this. Walk away. Just go. Just do it. Because your husband is teaching your child how to cope with the outside world. Another example I can use is moms build little blocks and read books and sing songs, and then dad looks after the child, and they go down the highest water slide, and you're like, aren't you thinking? Like, that child is 3. Like, walk away. Walk away. He loves that child as much as you do, differently, but as much. Walk away. That is teaching your child resilience. It does. They go to school and they go, I can't do this. Dad's going to go, you went down the water slide. Obviously, you can do this. And mom is like, shame, no. Like, shouldn't we put it in another class, another school, another? No. Mom, walk away. So this is where I've learned it. Our daughter is a little bit wild at heart, but she's overly cautious. I don't know. Jesus created her like that. Don't ask further questions. I'm like, how? So there's this huge water slide. So we all climbed to the top. They're small. I think she was about 5, 6 years old. And I'm like, I whispered to Mac, no, it's too high. And he's like, wait, my wife. Like, I'm like, I'm going to way back in the line. And she's standing. She has to go. And she's not going. And Max says to Mika, you need to go. And she goes, I can't. And he says, okay, but move out of the way. And she says, no, but I want to go. And at one point, she turns back and she says, Dad, will you push me? And he pushed her, and she loved it. And right through her school career, that was the thing. Then she would go and say, I can't do this. And then Mac would say, do you need a push? And she'll go, yes. Because mom didn't interfere when dad was busy building identity. That is what dads do. Jesus builds identity with us. So our roles and our responsibilities have clear lines. Do not let the culture influence you. Moms, walk away. If there's one thing I can teach moms tonight, leave that. If he throws the baby too high into the air, they do. I mean, often I would say to my friend, anybody with 3 brain cells next to each other would know that's too high, so let's just go make tea. I don't want to see it. So here's the thing, moms. We teach them to cope with the inside world. So when they're at school, we go, if you're not going to study like this, and this, you're not going to reach that. Right? That is coping with me. Our fears inhibit. Mom's fears inhibit. It stops the child. Because a mom wants to figure, if I'm scared of that, the outcome could be that, so I need to stop that too. But it is building resilience in your child. Don't stop the resilience. Okay? Don't rescue the struggle. Don't rescue the struggle. Okay. I still do it. Then I see Caleb Daniels is battling. I'm like, just pick him up on the step. And Max like, he's got nothing to do. He can struggle for a half an hour. I'm going to bake a bread or something. I'm just going to leave. Okay. Who is doing what in your household? You've got different functions. You've got different responsibilities. Moms and dads, I don't want to spend too much time on this. sit down and say simple stuff like, you lock the doors, I do the this, you do the that. Like, who is carrying what responsibility? But then, here is the important part. Which responsibilities are your kids going to carry in your household? Since young. Since young. Don't rescue the struggle, even with their responsibilities. So when your kids are small, our kids had chores in the household, which, by the way, nobody pays them for. They're part of the family. Mac is not giving me a salary to cook food in my own household. That is how you teach kids. So don't fall into this trap of, if you cut the grass, I'll give you 5 rand. If you wash dishes, you'll get to. Like, don't go there. You are training your kids. You are educating them. You're not paying them to be part of your household. Okay? So from the age of 2, our kids had responsibilities. Listen to this. First child, age of 2, he can fill the sugar jar. Yeah, I was the first time mom. He filled the sugar jar once. I'm like, this cart is not flying. And I'm like, you can unpack the dishes. Oh, sharp knives. Oh, you just broke 5 plates. And I'm like, okay, wait. I need to go back to the drawing board. Clean out the dustbins, fetch it for mommy. Mommy will put it in the big dustbin. You need to take it back and put it in the, there's a little drommetjie inside a drommetjie. And fetch the dirty towels for me in the bathroom. Make them part of the household. I've got a very dear friend they were 5 kids, and they every holiday fostered a child. And she said then their responsibility every night after a meal was the 5 kids would clear the table, wash the dishes, dry it, and pack it away. And then her mom said to this foster boy that's only there for the long weekend, you washing the dishes tonight. And she said she went, oh, shame, he's in an orphanage. And here she gives him a job. And she's telling the story. She says he would wash 1 plate and put it on and said, just wait before you dry the plates. And then he would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then he would say, okay, you can go. And then he would wash all the forks, and then he would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then all the knives. And eventually they said, what's wrong with you? Why do you keep counting? He says, I cannot believe for a long weekend I'm part of a family of 6 kids. And you make me part of this. Do not rescue the struggle. Don't fall into the ways of culture, of feeling sorry for people and then they get excluded. Make them part. People need to learn to work hard. People need to learn to be resilient. People need to learn to push through. Go sit with your grandparents. Ask them, how hard did your parents make you work? Honestly, what were your chores? I asked my dad the other day. He said, no, I was like, he was telling me a million things. And I said, and they were 8 kids. And I said, so you had to come from school. The daughters had to do the washing, and the boys had to go farm the field. And he's like, yes. And I'm like, have you ever as a child felt a sense of injustice? He says, no, everybody was doing it. It's like, and I said to my dad, what changed from when you were a kid to where I was a kid? Listen to this. So I knew my dad is going to say, kids are softer and they moan more and social media, more screen time. This is what he said. He said, in my time, you had 4 kids and 2 parents. These days, you have 4 parents and 2 kids. He says, that is the problem in society. That is why we've become soft. We work too hard, and we don't have enough time, so we're softer on the kids. So we don't teach them responsibilities, boundaries, and routine. We want to rescue their struggle. Okay. Strong families push through. Okay. So I've done this already. The Word of God says obedience is better than sacrifice. You know what it sounds like in parenting? People go, I really struggle, my kid really struggle to be obedient to me and listen to me, but at least he's a good kid, you know? At least he's always the one with the kind heart and the gentle. Stop. Stop. Failure. Red lights. The Word of God says obedience is more important than that sacrifice your child is making. Obedience is a building stone. It's a building block in parenting. How can you teach them obedience so that you as a parent can implement it easily? I've learned this from a youth worker. Hand, heart, watch, mom and dad cross. This is how you teach obedience. We always care for other more than we care for ourselves. I need you to be obedient about this thing in our home. Hand, that's the sign. Why do I speak respectfully to others, even if I don't like them? We care what other people feel. We care for other people first. Okay, so that's one part of it. Why do I have to make my bed? Stewardship, the hand. Jesus has given us things that we need to look after. Making your bed is looking after. It's teaching obedience and boundaries. Every morning when you get up, you make your bed. Why do we brush our teeth? We look after. Does it help you? Very easy. The heart is others before us. Others before us. For instance, how do you speak to others? How do you speak to your mom and dad? How do you speak about others? We think of what it makes them feel. Why do we share a sandwich with someone? Because their well-being is important to us. So there's always this thing, Nordine, we have this child that destroy my child's toys. Then that's very easy. Decide what your child is willing to share, the rest you pack away. But that which he didn't pack away, he has to share. It's a very easy calculation. The watch, there's a time for everything. I don't know why it's working, but it does. I've tried to figure it out, but I don't. I don't want to go bath now. There was a time to play outside. Now's the time to bath. And I'm like, okay. And then you put your timer on, 20 minutes, they can play in the bath. It's time to get out. No, but I want to bath long. The time for bathing is over. It's not time to get out. The moment you teach them to be obedient, respect time and that boundary, they get it. Even as teenagers. You know, when primary school, they go to a party. Mom, it's unfair. We're always the first ones to leave. Don't argue that point. There was a time to be at the party. It's time to go home. This is our time to go home. Our time is over. Then you get home, you go like, this is time to make dinner and bath. Teach them the concept of something ends, something else begins. Obedient to mom and dad. Mac and I represent authority in my household. Please, parents, never go. You need to listen to Jesus. Or if you don't listen to mom and dad now, I'm going to phone the doctor to give you an injection. That's manipulation. You're mom and dad. Mom and dad, you listen to Christ. Your kids listen to you. That's why we teach them. They are obedient to mom and dad. We don't blame somebody else. No, Dani said, no. Dani said it to me, but I want to be obedient to my leaders, and therefore they need to be obedient to me. And then we teach them to be obedient to the cross. Why can't we lie? We don't teach our kids from young, because the Bible says we shouldn't lie. Mom and dad, we don't lie. And you don't lie. Mom and dad don't lie because we want to honor the cross. And that is why it's so important that we teach our kids what obedience looks like. And that is how do you strengthen a family structure? This is where you start. I just want to conclude to say, I left this out. The seasons for a mom in any child's life, primary season, 0 months to 6 years. This is mom time. It doesn't mean dad is not involved. It's primary mom time. 6 to 13, it's primary dad time. Why is it primary dad time? Because it's a time of adventure, building identity, teaching skills, teaching them to go through the hard stuff. It doesn't mean mom is not involved, but it's a primary dad time. Dads, during that time, you talk to your kids about sex, money, friendships, life skills. Don't try to skip those conversations. From 13 onwards, it's their peers. And they go, you're not important anymore. So if we don't use these seasons properly, we lose them in those seasons. So our son, from the age of 18 to 26, wandered from the Lord. And I had 3 things I held on to. I knew we did this well. I knew that what Mac invested in his heart, there's one point he can't deny it. The second thing is God is a covenant-keeping God. The third thing was salvation belongs to the Lord. I've built a healthy and a godly foundation, but only Jesus can bring salvation. I set the tone for him to identify when Jesus meets with him. And just in a psychological way, there's a window of opportunity in every person's life. And from the age of 0 to 6, we build only a little bit into our kids, normally. This is only an example. Then from 6 to 13, there's a new phase, and we build things in. But we parents normally realize, I've got a truckload of stuff I need to build now. It's from 13 to 18. But that window of opportunity of teaching them valuable, heart-changing stuff, that window of opportunity closes at 15. Locked. What's in is in. So you can still build, but then it becomes head knowledge. Does it help you? So build a lot into your kids, especially to the age of 13. They might wonder, but it's in their spirit. It's part of their fiber. It's part of their foundation. It's part of the way they believe. They can reason stuff out, but there's something in the heart that's going to tug and pull them back. I'll send Donnie a clip where somebody teaches exactly on this with cylinders. So make sure you build well. Build community. You're not the only one that can be a voice in your child's life. Thanks, love. I'm done.